California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Pete Aguilar is back. He is the mayor of Redlands, also a nominee for a U.S. congressional seat, senator in San Bernardino County. That seat is being vacated by Gary Miller. How's the contest going? You are up against a Republican. He's the other nominee. That's not a given the new top two primary. How's it going?
Right, obviously. Good to be back with you, Brad.
Thank you.
We had a 7-way primary to get through.
Right.
We're excited. The campaign's going really well. We're talking about the issues that the community cares about, and that really is, how do you continue to rebuild the middle class? How do you support the economy, create jobs, support education? We feel very confident in the campaign and the direction that we're going so far.
And I do want to ask you specifically about your constituents, because they were so hurt during this economic recession. I mean, Redlands, did pretty well. But you think about San Bernardino, it just got hammered. The city's in bankruptcy. So as you're walking, as you're talking, as you're knocking on doors, what are they saying to you? Are they asking you about the Ukraine or ISIS immigration? Are they asking you about jobs and the economy?
It's jobs in the economy. They want to know how we can continue to build a middle class. And so that's what we've been talking about. And the dysfunction in Washington, D.C., people feel that Washington has let them down. And so, what we've been talking about is proposals to build the middle class, supporting increased minimum wage, making sure that we support job creation in the Inland Empire. But as you mentioned, San Bernardino was battered by the economy. And in a recent survey, they were rated the lowest in coming back from the recession. So, we know that our communities are struggling. So, making sure that we can continue to build a middle class has been something that our campaign has been focused on.
But there is some good news out of the county. We know maybe last year or the year before, the Amazon, they came and opened a distribution center in the city of San Bernardino. I think they opened another one in the county of San Bernardino, and now they're opening one, coincidentally, in your city, Redlands.
Yeah, and that's what we've done is we've brought people together. We've made sure that the city's open for business. We've worked with San Bernardino County Workforce Development, and Amazon came. A small little company,
right.
As you mentioned, small online company named Amazon. So hundreds of jobs for our community, which are going to pay above retail. They're going to have health care. They're going to have stock options on day one. Those are the type of middle class jobs that I think the Inland Empire needs.
What else are you looking to do? I mean, I know if you're a member of Congress, there's only so much one can do as a member of a body of 435, but to the extent that you can help your community in Washington on the jobs front, what are you looking to do?
We're looking to talk about making investments in infrastructure. San Bernardino County is perfectly situated between the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles and the rest of the nation. 40% of the goods that come through the nation come through San Bernardino County. So this is a pivotal area. So by making investments into streets and roads and infrastructure, we can not only create jobs in the short term on the construction side, but we can make sure that people know San Bernardino County is open for business and support commerce.
It's interesting you mentioned the ports because the ports are so close to the Inland Empire becomes a natural destination for distribution and warehouses, which are job creators, but at some level people kind of reject them and, those aren't very good jobs. But I think to myself, as I know, they're well-paying jobs. Is there a change in thinking on this whole notion of warehouse distribution centers is something to look at and lure?
I think so. We need to make sure that, and I think what critics talk about are the jobs per square foot type of metric.
I understand.
So, we need to make sure that those fulfillment centers, and the online example is a great one, because more and more fulfillment centers are going to be needed as more and more consumers get their goods online. So, those types of uses are much more job intensive and a great use of our resources and our recruiting abilities. So we're going to continue to keep reaching out to fulfillment centers and those online companies to make sure they know San Bernardino County is a great place to be.
I want to ask you about the minimum wage. It is remarkable how, depending on what state you live in, how the minimum wage debate can be colored in a completely different way than another state. In California, it was kind of a natural progression. Of course, the minimum wage was increased in California. In the blue states, we're seeing these increases. Some blue cities, the minimum wage is $13, $14, $15. In Washington, it is a huge fight, and a fight that the proponents of increasing the minimum wage are not winning. What do you hope to do come January upon swearing in as a proponent of an increase in minimum wage if, as it appears, your party will remain in the minority?
Well, hopefully, I think, and this is a case where we can show California is leading by example. So we can say to our critics, look, California is raising the minimum wage. We have a $9 minimum wage now with a scheduled $10 minimum wage in 18 months. So, we're leading by example, and we're still creating more jobs than any other state in the union. So these things aren't mutually exclusive. You can make sure that people have good paying jobs while creating more of them as well. And at the end of the day, I hope that my colleagues in Washington understand that nobody who works full-time should live in poverty. And that's really what the core of our economic message and supporting the middle class is.
But if this winds up being a status quo election, or maybe a little net Republican gain, or maybe the Democrats pull it out in a few seats on the Democratic side, how do you mix it up on this issue? I mean, there's been a lot of intransigence in Washington with your friends on the Republican side. I mean, it would seem that the minimum wage debate would have been a popular one with both parties. It had been during the Bush years. But there's no movement. So what do you, charming guy, but
and this is why people are losing faith in Washington, is because it's broken. People aren't working together to get things done. One area that you mentioned that they are working together to get things done is comprehensive immigration reform. The Senate passed it in a bipartisan way. Unfortunately, the House has not taken up the bill. So those types of things, I think that's what the public wants to see. The American people want to see their elected officials work together to achieve a common goal. And that's what we've done in the city of Redlands, Democrats and Republicans balancing budgets, creating jobs, supporting good businesses, and those are the things, and that's the vision that I'll take to Washington, D.C.
You bring up immigration, and I think the last time we spoke, we had not had, I'll call it the incident in Murrieta. And the incident being that there was a lot of anger by residents of Murrieta, which is part of the Inland Empire, about certain undocumented individuals coming through their town, possibly parking in their town. It got national coverage, and for some it was a black guy, for others it was a badge of honor. It's hard to know depending on which side you're on. So this debate continues to brew. Where do you go with it, given the intensity of emotions?
Well, this is a humanitarian issue, and I firmly believe that residents of the 31st District and the Inland Empire know that it's a humanitarian issue. We need to make sure that those young people who cross our borders have immunizations, have a safe place to be, and are ultimately reunited with their family members. So those are the things that I think are most important with the discussion and the debate.
But what's so interesting is you have Governor Brown, a Democrat, going to Mexico, and he talks about how he wants to help these children. He sets up a legal aid fund for these children. He wants to work with the diocese, etc. If you go to Washington, the rhetoric coming out of Washington for those that are opposed to progressive immigration laws, it is vitriolic. We hear about, Ebola coming over the southern border, and I'm not commenting one or the other, but it's like we're living in two different worlds.
And it's a shame that some people have made the conversation about that, and I don't think that that's fair. We need to look at this as a humanitarian issue and make sure that these kids are taken care of from a health perspective, and reunited with their families. That's what we should be doing as a community. My hat's off to the governor for bringing this up in a discussion, and by saying California is going to stand with them and to make sure that we're doing everything we can for these young people.
But what's also interesting about the immigration debate is that California Republicans, members of Congress, they seem to be on the side of reforming immigration laws. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between a California Democrat and a California Republican on the immigration issue. There's a lot of emphasis on immigration reform. But Republicans outside of the Southwest, they're not there. They're just not there.
Well, and that's where we need to say this is more than just talking points in an interview. If they're really serious about supporting comprehensive immigration reform and representing the incredibly diverse electorate in California, then they need to tell the speaker that let's bring this bill up. The time for discussing this issue and using it for talking points is past. Let's put the Senate bill up for up-down vote in the House of Representatives and to see where it goes.
And many feel as if that happened, it would pass.
Potentially, and I think that's the difficult part with leadership in the House. So that's why we're working so hard.
His name is Pete Aguilar, Mayor of Redlands, nominee for the U.S. Congressional District number 31. My name is Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.